everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about everything you need to know about agar agar so that you can successfully cook with it. So a few months back I put up a video, mango coconut agar agar jelly, and it was a hit. But people had a lot of questions about the agar agar itself, so hopefully this video will answer all of those questions. So the first obvious question is, what exactly is agar agar? And it's a seaweed extract, and it can set liquid into a solid, similar to the way gelatin does, except it's got a very, very different texture. So your best bet is to go to an Asian grocery store, and you can look for it in two forms. Powder form, which is the one that I use, and it comes in little packets like this. When you open it, it's a fine, fine powder just like that. And the other form is in threads, this big long packet here. And it's kind of a weird thing to work with. It looks sort of like plasticky rope, but it will yield the exact same product. Also, if you live close to a Japanese grocery store, or if your grocery store has a lot of Japanese products, they also have agar agar sold under the name kanten. That's what they call it, so you can look for it under that name as well. Also, as a sort of a last resort, you can look for this at health food stores because they sell agar agar as the vegan substitute for gelatin. Because if you didn't know, gelatin is actually made from animal parts, and so it's not suitable for vegetarians. So it's sold as sort of a health food as well, but that tends to be quite expensive. So look first at Asian grocery stores, then you can look for it at health food stores. If you're using the powder type, the ratio that I like is 1 teaspoon for every 320 mils of liquid, or that's a cup and a third, okay? But that's a flexible ratio. You can use a little less liquid and then it'll be firmer. Don't go too much more liquid than that. You can push it a little bit, but at some point it does become too soft and you won't be able to cut and maintain its shape. If you're using thick liquid like my mango puree, you also can use less of it as well. If you are using the thread type, I know it can be hard to measure. Cut it into sort of short pieces like this. And then you can measure it, and it's gonna just fly everywhere, but that's okay. And then you pack it into a third of a cup measure. That is equivalent to a teaspoon of the powder, which will set 320 mils of liquid. This is simple yet tricky at the same time. If you're using the powder type, you want to add it to cold water. Stir and then bring it to a boil. Never add powdered agar agar into hot water, because if you do, it'll clump up and it'll be impossible to get out. If you're using the thread type, you want to soak it first in water for about 15 minutes, and that'll help it hydrate. It'll dissolve faster when you go to cook it. This type will take longer to dissolve. So once it's soaked, you want to bring it to a boil and then let it simmer for about 5 minutes or so until it's completely clear. You no longer see any small pieces of the agar agar anymore. The same goes for the powder. Make sure you bring it to a full boil. It'll be quicker, but you want to check the liquid to make sure that there are no little tiny grains. Take a little bit of the liquid into the spoon and pour it off, and if it's not completely dissolved, you can usually see tiny little specks of the agar agar powder still on it. That is a big mistake people make, is they think it's dissolved, but it's not, and then it won't set your liquid. Another question I get a lot is, can I use gelatin instead? And yes and no, but yeah, it depends what you're going for. So the answer is yes, of course you can use gelatin, but you have to realize that it's a very different end product at the end. So it will set your liquid, but it's not gonna be the same thing. It has a very different mouthfeel. Gelatin is bouncy and it melts in your mouth, but agar agar is firm, almost a little crunchy, and it sort of crumbles in your mouth. So it's two very different products. It's sort of like making an apple cake and apple pie. That's the analogy I like. It's the same flavor, sort of the same ingredients, but it's a very different eating experience. So that's something that you can decide. Finally, I'm going to leave you with a couple of tips for success. Always dissolve your agar agar in water or some sort of a clear liquid. So if you're going to add mango puree or coffee or whatever liquid that is cloudy, you won't be able to see if it's completely dissolved. So dissolve it completely first in water and then add your flavoring. If you're making a layered agar agar like my mango and coconut jelly, you want to make sure that when you pour the second layer on, the liquid is steaming hot. Because if it's not hot enough, as if sort of lukewarm, the layers won't stick together very well and it can easily come apart. Normally, the layers, they're not fused together tightly anyway, but it shouldn't come apart on its own. And that is it for today. I hope I answered most of your questions about agar agar. And if I missed anything, please feel free to write me Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. So the first question I get is, what exactly is it? So it is